start first and foremost saying thank you to our student body more than anything. I thought last week they did a phenomenal job. I know it wasn't our home game, which I still don't know how, but it wasn't our home game, and I thought they did an awesome job. They were there early. I don't know that I didn't expect that, but I know that I believe they may have started a little faster than we did, and I really appreciate that, as well as the entire crowd. I mean, I really thought it was really, really good. I think that had it been our home game, maybe we'd opened up the upper deck. I think we could have filled that thing. So it was awesome to see our people. Started with our students, but also the fans. And as you know, it's a rivalry game, and that doesn't mean it's ever going to be easy. And it was a hard-fought game. We didn't play well, I think, to start with. Obviously, we had some turnovers and some things like that. But all in all, the objective is to win the football game. For the first time since 1915, we took the lead in 60-59, 60-59-7, and we're happy, excited, and proud of that. But as you know, it's time to move on, and we did that Sunday, probably about 3:30, 4 o'clock. We moved on, evaluated it, and now on to Indiana. And this is going to be a great challenge for us. This is I know it's something we've looked forward to. Obviously, getting them into our home stadium, and excited for Nippert Stadium really to be rocking. I think it's what we've said and you've seen and you guys know about it. One of the tougher stadiums to play in college football, and that's what I would expect on Saturday. We've got a job to do, and I know just like last week, our student body and our fans will do their job, and I think I know I'm excited about it. I know our entire team is excited for that.
Questions for Coach? Joe in the back, you can go.
Just go ahead.
See what happens when I don't go first.
Luke, how important do you think last year's win at Indiana was to kind of kickstarting your bid nationally to get more attention?
Well, it was big, but it was big in a lot of different ways. Obviously, every year you're going to go through adversity, and I've said I thought it was probably the worst 28 minutes of football we played in a while, and we did not play well. We didn't handle the atmosphere quite as well. Maybe the heat, all the different things. Being on the road, we did not handle that well. And for us to find a way to kind of rally the troops, gather ourselves, and win a big game on the road. So that was kind of the start. Not that we didn't believe and think we had a really good football team, but more than anything, to be down the way we were, to kind of be facing what it is that we were facing on the road. I thought that really helped define us kind of as a team, because every year you're different. And I think that was the point last year where we found out a lot more about all the other things we had around us. We knew what Desmond Ritter was going to be like. We knew what a lot of those other guys. But how are those guys really going to come together? And that second half in particular, the last minute and a half of the first half, I thought was really, really big for the growth of our season last year.
You talked on Saturday about the offense looking a little different, maybe kind of taking some of Ben's strengths. You are throwing the ball a lot more than you have in your 6 years here. Are you comfortable with that from an offensive perspective?
We're comfortable with winning and scoring points, and every year, you're going to be a little different. And, that still doesn't get away from who we think we are and who we want to be. And for us to, be able to establish and find the guys that are going to carry the running game, I think more than anything, is where I think we still got to grow. We're not going to get away with, being a top 15, top 10 team in the country throwing the football. I mean, the reality is the teams that are the top 2 and 3 in the country usually aren't always the best. Just like the top 2 or 3 teams running the football aren't always the best because they don't have balance. So for us to continue to grow, we know we've got to be able to throw the football, but we've got to make sure we've got enough balance. I'm not saying we didn't. Obviously, Chuck rushed for over 100 yards, and I think that was really, really good for a team that, basically in the past had said they're not going to allow you to run the football. I think Kentucky rushed for 40-some yards, and they had done a really good job. But I know for us to continue to develop, we've got to create and make sure that we've got balance in what we're doing. And that's establishing that ability to be able to run the football a little bit more.
So no air raid or anything like that?
I don't know. I don't know that it doesn't have to fit my personality. Again, at this age, you better be able to adapt and adjust, but better be able to adapt and adjust what those guys inside that room can do.
You talked about splash plays and wanting to be explosive. I think there were 15 plays of 15 yards or more. Are you happy with where you're at in terms of being able to both run and pass, hit some of the big ones?
Well, that's been the difference in that rivalry game. We were plus 11 in the explosives last week. Obviously, we didn't win the turnover margin, which is where we've done not as good a job in that game in particular. But some people would say, the analytics people of the world would say that turnovers aren't as big a deal. It comes down to the explosives. I don't know, I do know that I don't agree with them. But I know at times that there's things that can balance things out, and you've got to be able to find ways to create explosive plays. Just like defensively, you've got to find ways to eliminate explosives and create havoc, and that's where we have done a good job. Each and every week we've done a really good job at finding ways to create explosives, whether that's throwing the football, whether that's getting the ball into space, and running the football and popping it. But it really comes down to the space stuff. I say it all the time for the back: get them to the second level, and let's see people have to tackle them. The skill guys get the ball out there into all that space and make people have to tackle them. We've done a really good job of that, and I think that's obviously what's the difference in last week's game.
With the Indiana game coming up, your first 4 weeks have a very big difference in skill level from each team week to week. How difficult does that make it, or how much does it change it how you prepare going into each game?
You don't prepare any different. Obviously, the unique one is always the triple option stuff, and sometimes it takes a week or so to kind of get back into the swing of things. And we used to do a study that after playing a triple option team, a lot of teams had not fared well the following week. I don't know if that study still holds up. That was 4 or 5 years ago. But I do know that there are some things that make it a little bit more difficult on you, just with the development of you as a defense. But I think that's, each and every week there's going to be different things. We didn't tackle well in the very end of the season last year, but as you look back at it, you'd say, okay, well, you're tackling different people as well. So I think we knew going into this season that we were going to be a little bit front-loaded with this schedule. We knew we needed to do some things in fall camp to prepare ourselves. I don't know that we did a great job of that in week 1. I think we've done a much better job as we continue to move forward. And I think from here on out, we're going to see more and more skill. Our league is full of skill as well. And people are going to spread it out, get the ball in space, and you've got to do a really good job of having the ability to tackle and leverage things, especially defensively.
You mentioned after the game you weren't sure if Kiner was available late. Did you find out? Do you have any updates on him?
Well, he was there. I don't know if he was available as much, but we was a little bit dinged up. They didn't feel really comfortable. I know he did. He had told us that he felt good. He was ready to go. And that's a part of that, not knowing him real well. Obviously, he's only been here for a short amount of time. And we've got to put guys in situations so that we can learn to trust them more and more. So I put that a little bit on me, that I wish I would have got him in there to see. But again, when a guy's got a little bit of something and you're not positive, you want to be smart. And I think that's the good and the bad of having a Charles McClellan that you got the utmost confidence in, to be able to leave in there and just kind of tote it the rest of the way. It is a good thing, but I don't know that in the long run that's what's going to be best for us, because we know we're going to have to develop a lot more of those guys and gain some more confidence in Corey and Miles and those guys. So, I wish we would have had a little bit different opportunity. I wish we would have got him in there and maybe seen him in those situations. But we'll see a lot more of him as we move forward.
I think the idea of a undefeated Big Ten team coming to Nippert Stadium might be bigger of a media headline than you guys are probably seeing. Obviously a team you respect, but it's not the big deal to you guys as it is to maybe the media headline. But I'm curious, do you feel like what you guys accomplished last season by beating Indiana, beating Notre Dame, going to the playoff, that you no longer have to circle these games and improve something when you go against quote-unquote Power 5 teams?
Yeah, I don't think our guys look at it as proving anything. I do know that they grew up in this region, the majority, 81% of our guys. So anytime you can play a team that's within our region, think about our league. We don't get a whole lot of opportunities to play the teams that maybe some of those guys grew up watching. Not saying that they were die hard to go to Indiana or whatever, but I think that does mean something. And so anytime someone comes in, especially a team that's undefeated, I think it's a big deal. It's a big deal, guys. I don't think they look at it any differently, being the P words that we don't say. I think from not just because of what we did last year, but I think in general of what we pride ourselves on. But that doesn't sell it short of saying, hey, this is a 3-0 football team that you don't get a whole lot of these guys to come into your stadium at times. And so it's a big deal. It's a big deal for us. I'm sure it'll be a big deal for them because obviously last year, in their house, it didn't go the way they wanted it to. So in some ways, I think if I was them, I'd have this one circled, the ability to go on the road and kind of redeem what maybe we did to them last year. So the key is that we understand that. The key is that we prepare for that. But I think more than anything, our guys just love being at home and have the ability to play in front of a wild crowd.
Losing a guy like Malik Van, a super senior, having Phillips and Wiley play, how do you feel like they did in his absence?
They did a good job. I mean, we knew we were going to have to play 8 guys. That's the good of how we've played the last few years. But it's hard. It is difficult. I mean, I not just feel bad for our team. I feel bad for Malik. I mean, it is a really difficult situation, to come back for another year and prepare really, really well, and then to have something like that happen. And it's not something you could avoid. I mean, there's not like, well, if I had done something different, I could have taken care of myself. And it's just one of those things that you got no explanation for. And so all around it, it's a tough situation, but it's a part of the game. And that's why we've been harping and hammering on those guys. I call them younger guys, but guys that maybe haven't played as much ball. That they're going to be a big part of this. And obviously, Eric and Justin Watley and Noah Potter are the guys that probably maybe went from playing 40 snaps a game or 35 snaps a game to playing 50 snaps a game. Maybe they were only going to play 20 snaps. So we're going to have to be able to use those guys in some different ways and still be able to kind of roll them a little bit more. And got to find now for us, we got to find who is that 7th and 8th guy, and that's where Ryan Mullaney is also falling into, really be able to help us a lot.
I know it's still early, but the advanced metrics are really good on Taj and Sammy in the slot. What have you seen just from evaluating film and all that?
Well, if you haven't noticed, I think that they haven't been challenged maybe as much, and I think what people have done a little bit more is some of the motions, and I think that's week 1. And it's been a little bit, I'm not saying copycat, but you tend to get those guys continue to do that. And, twofold. Is it because they've done a really good job? Is it the structure of what it is they're doing? Is it they're trying to take advantage of something else? Needless to say, I think we feel really good about what it is that they've done. The nice thing is that, as you remember, Arquan had kind of played that position solely. And when he went out, I think that sometimes we threw Taj in there, but he didn't play a whole lot. So I think the ability to play those guys, 50% of the time, they're subbing, whether it's every 2 series, every 1 series. I think it just gives us a lot more options. It gets those guys a bit fresher, and they're both mature enough to handle it. Because some guys would say, well, I'm better when I play the whole time. But the really mature ones that, even if they aren't in there, that are paying attention and watching, gain a lot more from even where their vantage point from around the sideline, as well as continuing to be fresher and healthier. So they've done a really good job, and I think at some point in time, especially maybe this week with a lot of the space that these guys create, they'll be challenged a little bit more.
Brett Yormark, the new Big 12 commission, when he was here, he shared with us that he had a funny conversation with you about you ruining his homecoming to Indiana when you guys beat him last year. Do you remember that conversation and how playful you guys were there?
I don't know if I remember the homecoming part of it, but I remember that he had went to school there. I don't remember that. He did say, maybe he did tell me he was at that game, but I don't know much.
He said he was feeling himself, and then.
Well, I just wanted to make sure he knew where he was. He didn't lose sight of where his, who's on his team. So even though you have alma maters, those things go in the background a little bit as you move into new things. And so hoping he understood that.
Indiana, as you mentioned, spreads you out and throws it around a lot. How do you maintain that discipline as a run defense, though, to not lose sight of they throw so much?
Yeah, it's, there's not a giant sample size, too, because you're kind of looking around and obviously what Walt Bell, the offensive coordinator, had done in other places, or whether it was at UMass, and they just got 3 games looking at him. So there's a lot of things that you're still trying to speculate, but that they're going to spread the ball around. If you remember playing the UCFs of the world, I think that is very similar to what it is that they're doing. And the unique thing about UCF was that hey, if you didn't pay attention to the run, that's where they were most dangerous. everybody talks about the shots down the field and the space, but their ability to have balance is what made them so good. And that's a little bit of the vision of what I see from Indiana. That sometimes you notice just the splits and the things like that, but their ability to still be able to run the football is, I think, where they create the difficult situations when you really got to they got a balance to what it is that they're doing.
So you mentioned throwing that ball around, then spreading that. You have a guy on Indiana's offense, Devin Matthews, smaller receiver, kind of move him around in that offense, whether it's in the slot or in the run game, spread him out. How do you guys prepare for a guy like him? Obviously, a smaller receiver can affect the game in so many
The
ways.
good thing is we've got some pretty good slot receivers that we've gone against every day, and that's where the Trey Tuckers and the guys that we face on a regular basis really hopefully prepare us for when we get opportunities like this. That our nickels and those guys that are in the slots have been challenged a lot. So the difference is they do create some more space with some of their splits and things like that. So there's always different things, and you got to be aware of it. But that's why I kind of said before that I think those nickels will have a little greater challenge on their hands, not just because of Matthews, but also because of how they use them, the space that they create. And that's a great challenge for us.
You mentioned how 80+% of your guys are from this area. Having Indiana come here, how much does that help with recruiting and you really honing in on?
Well, 81% of our team are from a 300-mile radius. I wouldn't just say right here, but when you say that, you're talking from Chicago to Detroit to Pittsburgh to kind of Nashville, and maybe some would say and grew up in somewhat of Big Ten country, so they know a lot about whether it's the Big Ten or it's Indiana. We've got several guys from Chicago, and so they know a lot about the history of it, and so I don't know that they envision and understand and see for a Big Ten team or Indiana to come into our place is not as normal. Like, they don't always do these kind of deals, but I think for them it's just the idea that, hey, this is a 3-0 football team. This is a team that really kind of helped us get on the track for where we were last year, and knowing that when you beat somebody at their place, they've had this thing circled. So I don't know if they understand the magnitude of it, of maybe what has to go down to make these deals happen, nor does it matter. The reality is, I think that they respect what it is and the opportunity they've got.
There were some reports last year that Indiana maybe likes to peek over and take signals from the other side. Is that something you guys have dealt with or found a way to combat?
I don't know that. I guess I'd say that if you didn't think that everybody is doing some version of that, then you're probably blinded, and you're got your head under that rock that I live in sometimes. It is what it is. I think we've always got to do a good job of changing things up, whether that's week to week, year to year. So I don't know. I mean, I think the tempo, at least offensively, for them to steal defensive signals, I'm sure that's it's things that they look at, but as quickly as they go, it probably makes it a little bit more difficult on them. I don't know that they care as much about what it is that you're in. I think they focus a little bit more about themselves. But that doesn't go to say that we don't know that those things do go on every week, and you've got to find ways, because you get later in the year, everybody's got a pretty good book on what people are doing. There's TV copies, there's all kinds of things. So I think you got to just be aware of it and know that each and every week you got to make some adjustments.
Any other questions for Coach? Thank you, sir.